Susan, talk about your OMS is what's considered an interdenominational parachurch ministry organization where you offer resources to other churches that are out there. Some of those ministries are Men for Missions, Dynamic Women in Ministry, and another ministry that you consider to be a catalyst for church planting and growth. What's that one called?
Every Community for Christ.
Every Community for Christ. Can you talk about those ministries briefly and talk about how they operate and what they do?
Absolutely. Men for Missions is more than 50 years old. It is a ministry of OMS. And although the name says Men for Missions, it includes men, women, families. But it was started by men over 50 years ago, specifically to reach out to the men in the churches that we were seeing that the women were active in their women's groups and whatnot, and especially even in missions, but the men weren't. And so just over 50 years ago, they started Men for Missions, specifically to really get men up off the couches.
How do they do that?
Missions. The biggest thing that Men for Missions is involved in is through trips.
Short-term mission trips?
Short-term mission trips. Through Men for Missions, the trips only go up to 2 weeks. If you're interested in longer than short-term trips, then it moves over into the OMS short-term department. But Men for Missions does from 1 to 2 week trips. And they go.
So if you're a dad and you want to teach your kids about different parts of the world, you can take your family, your wife, your kids, and you can go on a short-term missions trip. Men for Missions helps you do that. Is that correct?
Yeah. You know, it has to be a specific country to take families. We don't. You can't go to any country for a family trip. You can go anywhere if you're a man or an adult woman, but if you want to do a family trip, just because of the logistics and whatnot, it's very country specific. But they have definitely done that in the past, and it really has, you know, opened the doors for families to understand.
What about the Dynamic Women? And that's similar to the Men for Missions?
Very similar.
But how does it differ?
Well, it differs in that this one is geared totally for women.
Oh, okay.
And it's a new program, started within the last year, and the Dynamic Women are taking trips also around the world and opening women's eyes to missions.
Well, that's great. Susan, can you talk a little bit about Every Community for Christ? What is Every Community for Christ, and talk about the impact that has?
Every Community for Christ is almost as old of a ministry within OMS as OMS it is itself. It used to be Every Creature Crusade. Started out as big crusades, evangelism. It's now Every Community for Christ, meaning that ECC is our catalyst for evangelism and church planting efforts, and they go into every country that OMS is involved in, and they exactly what the name says. They want every community taken, or not taken, but every community one for Christ. And so
so they lead the way for the missionaries to go in. They prepare the communities, they get them ready, identify resources, individuals, and leaders within the community that they can come alongside and plant the missionaries in there. So they're kind of like a pre-missionary mission.
Kind of, yeah. And working really with the national churches, the national leadership, training those national leaders there to do the evangelism. That's why we're seeing such incredible results, because we're not just relying on our missionaries, which are so important. We definitely, you know, believe in the Western missionary, and there's a definite role for them. But we're also seeing incredible results because of our partnerships with the national believers. So that's a big role that ECC
So training
has.
up missionaries from within their own countries, so that our missionaries going there and training them how to be missionaries to their own country and to other countries.
That's right.
Seeing an impact there.
Yeah, and we're seeing this multiplication, and it's not just you know, the old school missions is the addition system. You have one church, and then that church adds another church, and you see growth.
But isn't the New Testament model multiplication? Oh, well then that's good. So we're being in the New Testament church.
That's right.
Talk about the area of child trafficking. How is OMS playing a role in dealing with the issue that's really a hot button right now in dealing with child trafficking?
Yeah. Also, a new ministry in One Mission Society is Hope 61, taken from Isaiah 61 passage talking about freeing the captives. And it's a very popular thing in our Christian world right now, getting involved in the anti-human trafficking. And OMS is very interested in compassionate ministries. You know, we definitely feel that compassionate ministries have to go hand in hand with evangelism, discipleship. But the way that we're a little bit different is that with Hope 61, we're not really a ministry that is on the front lines helping to stop anti-human trafficking, but rather we are going into the countries, again, partnering with the national churches and national believers there, teaching them about the anti-human or the human trafficking within their country, and trying to mentor them and train them so that they become the champions within their own country to stop the human trafficking.
Well, Susan, this has been a very informative session. It was really good to know that we have a ministry, a great ministry like OMS right here in the heart of central Indiana, in Greenwood, and you guys are literally reaching the world, having a worldwide impact from right here in central Indiana. What do you have to say to anybody that's out there, you know, closing remarks? We really invite you to go to the website, onemissionssociety.org. Is the website, and if you want to get involved, that's the first place to go. Check that out. I want to thank the guest today, Susan Loobie, who's the communications director, for allowing us to take some time and just talk to her about some of the awesome things that OMS is doing. Anything you want to add, Susan, to tell the internet world, thank them for tuning in and watching?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I hope what this time has done is, more than anything, informed you. A lot of people have said that One Mission Society is the best kept secret in the missions world. Every time that I talk to somebody like this, they inevitably say, I had no idea. And it's right here in the heart of Indiana. And a lot of people will say, when I tell them we're the building with the flags on it on Fry Road in Greenwood, they're like, oh, I passed that. I never knew what it was. And so I hope that you're better informed about what God is doing around the world through OMS, but definite ways that you can get involved is by giving financially, by joining the team, and by praying.
Yeah.
We need prayer partners. We have prayer emails that go out on a weekly basis. If you want to get involved and know how to better pray more effectively, you can get involved that way. And so hope you connect.
Well, thank you very much, Susan. Thanks for tuning in, everybody out there. And you can find out more about OMS at onemissionssociety.org.